Hello, YouTube. So I want to do a kind of tale of two Taliskers here. Um, this first Talisker I bought is from Fat Dram. This is an independent bottling from BC Merchants in Chicago. I bought this for a tasting that I hosted, um, just because I thought it would be fun to have some very young raw Talisker. This is a 6-year-old cask 13670, bottle 170 of 185. Um, Distilled in November 2010, bottled on August 28th, 2017, from a refill hogshead, no chill filtration, natural color. Great. And again, it's liter. We had this at the tasting, and it put me in mind to wondering, because I hadn't had it in a couple of years, what the standard Talisker 10-year-old would be like. And I was thinking of buying a full bottle, and I noticed that Diageo had gone back to putting out these great little sample bottles in 3-packs. So I bought a 3-pack with my little 200 milliliters of Talisker 10-year-old to try out. And I thought I would just do a little comparison. So here we go. There's my independent bottling and my official one. And you will notice the difference in color, right? Surely the one that's darker will be better, right? Okay. Okay. So the reason I was interested in this is because I wanted sort of a Talisker reposado, like, what is the sort of raw spirit like? Because Talisker has this reputation as a really interesting distillate. And I believe, I thought a lot of this, Talisker independent bottlings are kind of rare. They tend to be pretty young. They tend to be 6, 7, 8 years old. And so my thinking was, okay, surely this is just coming out of blending stock. A lot of Talisker goes into blends. Maybe these folks, the Fat Dram people, got a hold of basically a blending cask, and it's not the good stuff, but it'll be fun to try. So this was my hypothesis going into this. And if you nose it full strength, it is what is this? 58.9% alcohol, so cask strength. No wood to speak of. This is a pretty much a dead cask. I'm getting twiggy peat, absinthe, so anise, fennel kinds of notes. A little engine oil, like dirty. You just change your engine oil. It's been sitting around in the pan for a little bit. Brininess. A little bit floral too. A little bit like what you get in the Ardbeg I reviewed in previously. Kind of peated flowers. It's not actually that peated. We're sort of at Ben Romack levels of peat here, at least on my impression. And there's a kind of sweetness, but it's not a sugary sweetness. It's more like a corn syrup sweetness. I don't know if you know Caro, the stuff on the grocery shelves you're supposed to put in like old cookies and things like that. So not high fructose, but just regular old corn syrup. It's almost like a candy corn note on the palate. Oh, okay, so it's hot because it's cask strength. Really interesting. Floral again, peaty. Sweet and sour all at once. The sour is a kind of barley sour, but the sweetness is again that kind of funky candy, like peated candy corn, if you can think of it that way. A little barnyardy, a little poopy. Some campfire in there, like more ash than actual campfire. Um, some spiciness, like a hang on, like a not a like a habanero, more like a Scotch bonnet pepper. If you really dilute it, it's one of those. If you know, like your island cooking, Scotch bonnets are these really powerful peppers that are actually kind of nice and sweet. Um, and that sort of anise note again, and a little bit of lemon, like lemon peel, I would say. Um, so initially, this is lovely enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some water to it, get it down to proper drinking strength. See if that's enough. No, one more. Okay. So this is the one I thought was like blending stock. It's a dead cask, obviously. So, this is not the stuff that's going into there. The good stuff. This is not the single malt stock. But, I have my 10-year-old here. This is supposed to be the good stuff, right? Jesus. Okay. Uncomfortable would be my first word. So sawdust and green ginger on the top, and then underneath that, you got some similarities. There's a sort of floral, twiggy island peat in there, but it's also much more fainty. This one has a little hint of faintiness. This one is like it's actually beery. It reminds me a little bit of there's a malt liquor, Old English 800. There's a little bit of that going on in here. So 8 Ball, Talisker. And then that there's a little bit of that the sort of floral soapiness thing. Fennel, like an olive maybe. Okay, on the palate. Oh, yeah, sawdust and ginger again, peat. Yeah, similar, but this feels both raw and more oaky at the same time. Honestly, it comes across like you know uh, they had everything in dead casks just up until a couple of years before they bottled this, and then they threw some of it into really oaky, like virgin oak, recharred casks, maybe quarter casks, something like that, just to kind of shoot some oak into it, really kind of brutally. And I'm going to be honest, it hasn't worked. It just feels like there's some like a like a fresh green 2x4 floating on top of a uncomfortably fainty Talisker. Lemon peel thing again, some like pepper flakes, peated candy corn again. Oh, yeah. I am very glad I didn't not buy a bottle of this. Okay, so I'm gonna give this a squirt, see if it develops water, and go back to my independent bottling. What I found is that this gets a little bit soapy with water. I mentioned this in the Ardbeg Wee Beastie review. Young peated whiskeys tend to get a little bit soapy with water. That's kind of what's going on, but it's not as bad there. It's a little bit softer. But what you do get is uh, some some kind of mud notes come out. Um, a little bit of pear, like peated pear. Um, yeah, a little bit more sort of dustiness, like more campfire ash. Um, oh, it's not developing that much. If I let this settle down a little bit more, it might. But um, on the palate, ooh, much spicier, heavy on the Scotch bonnet. Ooh. Um, yeah, a little bit of the beeriness that I found in the Talisker 10, the official bottling, is now coming through. Just not nearly as much. This is like little Miller Ice here, not the full um, not the full Steel Reserve. Um, um, yeah, ash, char, hint of coconut. Weirdly, but I don't think it's coming from the cask. I think it's actually coming from the spirit. Um, sort of beery, like almost a Bach or a double Bach note to this. You know, after this, coming back to this, initially I suspected this was like a crappy cask that they managed to get a hold of and they just sold it anyways because it's a Talisker. My impression now is that this was actually not a good cask, but a good batch, if I can put it that way. This is a batch that um, wasn't as brutal as a lot of what is going into the standard 10-year-old. Um, hmm, yeah, the soapiness is a little bit annoying still, but I'm going to give this an 86 out of 100. It's perfectly it's good. I think this is actually the way to experience Talisker if you can get a hold of an independent bottling like this. This is going to be a higher score than this little guy gets. Okay, let me get a glass of water and go back to the standard bottling. Yeah, still, fresh oak and peatiness, kind of mud and soapy flowers, and it just sort of the sort of malt liquor ice beer note just poking through on this, and on the palate. I mean, it's difficult. It's uncomfortable. This is Talisker is a fantastic distillate. It's and it almost saves it here. Like it feels like they've just um, okay. So I'm going to give this like an 84 minus. If Talisker is a distillate that it's very raw, it's very elemental. It's not great to drink straight coming straight off the still. Where it becomes magical is when you put it in not even a good cask, just like a decent second fill bourbon cask or something for a couple of years, just kind of round it off, kind of take those fainty, sulfury, uncomfortable notes and kind of give them turn them from flaws into uh, positive characteristics, and that's just not happening here. It's just they just they put everything into. It feels like they put everything into dead cast and then tried to cover it up, kind of at the last moment. this is not great. The quality of the distillate is still there. Um, Again, it's an 84 minus, but I mean, a full size version of this is a $70 bottle of whiskey, right? I mean, give me $70 and let me walk around a liquor store, even just like peated malts, and I can find you, better options all day. You know, I mean, even in Diageo's own portfolio, uh, the Lagavulin 8 absolutely dismantles this. Um, so at the moment, I'm going to say, you know, unless you find someone who actually put the original spirit into a good cask and didn't just re-rack it for a couple of years, maybe stay away from Talisker at the moment. If you can get a good cheapie, a good independent bottling that's not too expensive, it's worth a shot. But um, other than that, there's better options out there. There's Lagavulin, there's Lecheg, there's Highland Park, there's just go down the line. I mean, um, so it's a little bit unfortunate. I'm hoping they'll come back in a few years, but um, that's kind of how it is. 86, respectable, but especially for a 6-year-old whiskey. And 84 minus, not great for a $70 bottle. That's it. And now I have to unfortunately finish this. Cheers.